what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry, and we are both with the Foot Candle Film Society and the annual Foot Candle Film Festival. And today we are here for another episode of Foot Candle Films, where we review some of the latest films, give some recommendations, cover a little movie news, watch some trailers, do a lot of fun stuff. And Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing well. I'm looking forward to talking about the film, and specifically this film, because with all the end of the year movies that we have, we played a bunch of catch up trying to get all the Oscar nominated films talked about. A lot of times there were films that we'd seen, but maybe we hadn't seen them in a week or 2 weeks, or there'd been a little bit of a gap. You and I both literally just watched this film last night, so it's awesome because it's fresh in my mind. I have a couple of notes, but it's like, who needs notes? I remember because I just saw it. So
well, I see. I have slept since then, so I did have to take notes because
Okay,
otherwise
fair
I
enough.
would not remember everything. But the film that Chris is referring to is the film Opus that we will be reviewing here in just a moment. Director, writer Mark Anthony Green, starring Ayo Edebiri and John Malkovich. We're going to be talking about that film here in a little bit, giving a review of the film. Then we'll move into some trailers we've got to share. We got a little throwback from the 80s and 90s with a couple of trailers and sequel trailers that we're gonna show for you or play and get our reactions to those trailers. And then at the end of the show, Chris is going to have a recommendation of a film that he thinks we ought to check out, and we'll hear his recommendation and see if it's going to be added to our personal watch list or not for the future. All right, Chris, so as always, we've got plenty to do. What do you say we get started?
let's do it.
All right, here's our review of the film Opus.
There's a rumor flying around that Moretti's back. Like, Moretti?
After 30 years outside the public eye, pop icon Moretti returns for an exclusive listening experience.
He's bringing you a gift.
This is for Ariel Ecton.
It'll be an absolute honor to spend this weekend with you.
Thank you.
Yep, namaste. Everybody meet Ariel, some young blood from the magazine. This is Clara, the most hated sex symbol on TV.
Thank you. How's print media treating you?
Opus is writer-director Mark Anthony Green's feature debut. As Alan mentioned, it stars Ayo Edebiri as Ariel, a writer who travels to the compound of the reclusive pop star named Moretti, played by John Malkovich, to hear his new album, his first in 30 years. Upon her arrival, she and a group of fellow journalists discover the musician is stranger than they could have possibly imagined. Alan, what was your take on Opus?
My take on Opus, we were trying to decide what film to see this past weekend, because
Yes.
there were a couple of choices to see, and it was between Opus and I think Black Bag was
Yes. The second Steven Soderbergh film of the year, yes.
Yeah. Kind of wish I'd gone to see Black Bag.
Okay.
So that's Opus just didn't work for me, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly why, but I think I can probably peg it down to, I think it's a film with some really interesting ideas and concepts, but I thought the execution was pretty slapdash. I just didn't feel like this film ever really figured out what it wanted to be, tone it wanted to carry, what style of film it wanted to be. And so it was disappointing for me. I'll be the first to say there are some moments in this film that I think are worth seeing just because, and they all center around, I think, John Malkovich for the most part. I enjoyed John Malkovich's performance quite a bit. I just feel like the movie he was in didn't know what to do with everything it was trying to wrestle with. A lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, a lot of genres mixed in, a lot of styles, and it just never quite found its footing. So I didn't really find myself very engaged in this film at all. Although on paper you describe it, it sounds great. It's just, to me, it was an all concept and no good execution of it. So that I can go into more details in a little bit. But Chris, what are your thoughts on Opus?
I didn't know going in. I knew it was directed by Mark Anthony Green, but I knew nothing about him. I still don't know a lot about him, but I didn't know it was his feature debut. Mm-hmm. Knowing that now explains a little bit of some reservations that I had as I was watching the film. Kind of on the same page, but I think I'm overall more favorable than you. I liked several moments in the film, but overall, it seemed a little kind of like different type of shagginess or rough, all over the place. We had Mickey 17 that we just reviewed last week. This, you kind of know, even the trailer, which I think we played on a previous show as kind of a, we talked about it. We're getting excited or interested in the film. The trailer lets you know that something's going on. So that's not a surprise. And this film is billed as a bit of a horror film, which I don't know that I would consider it to be that necessarily, but it is definitely, it's just an odd film. You wouldn't really call it a thriller necessarily, but some things are going on that aren't quite right. Moretti basically has kind of established a cult out in the middle of the desert. And that becomes glaringly obvious within the first 15, 20 minutes of the film. But like I said, there were enough moments in the film that I found satisfyingly odd. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe as Mark Anthony Green continues to make films, he'll hone kind of his style and maybe some of the writing, and that will produce a more concise piece of work. Mm-hmm. And I'll end up appreciating it more. But there was enough here that I still liked it. And I'll say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but overall the criticisms it's making about, celebrity, and then a little bit of the media's responsibility of covering celebrity. These are all things that have, these conversations about that aren't new. They've been done by other films. And probably the commentary they were making was maybe better done in other films. But what kind of elevated the film for me was the final conversation between Moretti and Ariel, and kind of, where the film's going, but some things that are said in that conversation, I was like, interesting. And that kind of elevated the film overall for me. And I think without it just kind of changed the stakes of certain things that were happening and made it more interesting overall. Kind of turned it into a little bit of a Jordan Peele type film in a way. And I think that's kind of the way the trailer was edited and some of the way the shots are done. It kind of has that feeling about, because Ayo Adebiri, she is African-American. She's, a minority, and then Moretti is obviously white, and kind of that whole, how she's sidelined with the other journalists and not respected as much, and kind of her place. And so, but just a little more honed on the writing probably would have helped it. But overall, I will sit here and I can mention several moments that I enjoyed. But before I go on and do that and play kind of a Chris Farley role, do you have any, further explanation on what you found frustrating?
Yeah. I think everything you just described, yes, those concepts are interesting that it wants to explore. I just felt like the film just didn't really know what story it wanted to tell in what way, in that if it had gone, and I hate calling it, Jordan Peele-ish, type of thing, but if it had gone in that direction for the duration of the film, that kind of tone and style to it, which I agree. I like the ending. I agree with you on that. I think the ending conversation is great. I just felt like it was from a very different movie. It just didn't fit the rest of the movie for me. It felt like, okay, you've taken a tone, you've taken a style. There's moments where this thing got silly, and I liked it when it got a little silly at times. It was kind of absurdist silly. I'm like, yeah, okay, if that's the tone you want to go for, let's do it. Let's be absurdist about this. And yet then it would back down and try to be more dangerous, more treacherous, more I don't know. Again, Jordan Peele-ish, if you want to go in that arena. And that's ultimately where the film ends, but I didn't feel like by the end, I'm like, okay, I like the ending. That was great. I just do not feel like it fleshed this out and kind of led to this by the rest of the film. It's a film of interesting moments, and it's a film of interesting scenes. I mean, I can call it a lot of scenes I liked a lot. There were some moments I thought were great, but at the end of the day, I think by the time there came to be it was building to a conclusion of this film. And I'll just say, by the time we got to the puppet show.
Oh, I love the puppet show.
Okay. The puppet show itself, cool. But the aftermath of the puppet show, I felt like is where it just, at that point I realized, okay, the film, it's kind of just lost its way. It's not really quite sure what it's wanting to do here.
I'll take issue with that. And the more I think about it, and that last scene, which you and I both appreciate, the last scene kind of makes you recontextualize a little bit of what Moretti is about. And I think if things hadn't have been as odd and the tone all over the place, which, you could say maybe tone management is a little bit of a problem because some points it was just outright silly, and then at times it would get kind of dark and Jordan Peele-ish, for lack of better shorthand. Mm-hmm. That's what made that ending so effective, is it kind of said like, okay, this is what you think of it. And like we said, you're like, this is what we think, the commentary about celebrity and all this. And it was like, nope, there's actually something. And so the mess that was before that final conversation says, yes, that mess was on purpose, or at least that's how I took it. Mm. And Billie Holiday puppet show. Yes, there is this really weird puppet show, which I appreciated. And then after that, you're right, it kind of kicks into, okay, and now we're going to get to the final bit of the film. Mm. And horror elements start happening, and it's just kind of like, what? It just gets really bizarre, and it kind of goes on a speeding roller coaster or a runaway train type thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that was necessary because in a way, you always knew the runaway train was running towards, yes, this is a cult and these things are crazy and they're going to kill everybody or do it.
Right.
And so it's like, so it just really rushes you towards that. And then you get this final conversation. It's like, okay, wait a second. What is exactly going on here? Why did he invite journalists here? Like there's a little bit more going on than kind of meets the eye. And to me, different type of twist, I guess, but it was kind of a refreshing thing, kind of like the first time you ever watched Sixth Sense and you get to the end, like the We See Dead People, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And so even some of the ridiculousness that Moretti does, like he has this entrance into the hall where the members of his cult are seated, but also the journalists are seating. And he does this like ridiculous, even for Malkovich, even for Moretti, over the top kind of call and response with the crowd. Mm. And at one point he is squirming and crawling on the floor as he does it. Clearly, I guess maybe Malkovich is having the time of his life, having fun with this. I think he is, but it was just like, okay, yeah, this is, it's celebrity and somebody who's self-obsessed, but this is like just going to 11. Like this is the most self-obsessed. Like it's just, even beyond parody. And I'm like, okay, whatever this is, that is entertaining. And then like you mentioned, the Billie Holiday puppet show, which by the way was put on in, I guess, by children at this combat. So then the children having this knowledge of how Billie Holiday was treated, which again is actually making some interesting commentary on celebrity, because Billie Holiday is, talking about her life, and then around her are all these reporters who are rats. Yes. And not only just rats, but like diseased, malformed rats asking her all these like really personal questions and attacking her. So there is a lot going on here. Yeah. So,
and the moments, again, like you're rattling off the moments work great for me. It's just in the end, does it make for a good movie? And I don't feel like it does. I think those movies those scenes I could call out. Yeah, it's great. Malkovich is doing excellent work. I mean, look, he gets to sing in this. He sings and dances. There's another scene where he's in a listening room set up, and it's just awesome. I mean, it is
love that scene. Yeah, because it's a listening room set up. He is dressed up in this costume. There's these big speakers, and basically he plays his new album while like trying to seduce all the critics that are there. And it is ridiculous.
You see, that's the thing. I like the ridiculous of it when it's like, all right, yeah, this is over the top ridiculous. You get it. This is not what, this is an absurdist view of celebrity, and we like that. That works for me. But it's I think is when it tries to change tones or tries to say, okay, no, we're going to go for some sort of more meaning here. I'm like, okay. I think it was fine working as an absurdist, I don't want to say comedy, but just an absurdist view of celebrity and how the celebrity could actually be viewed in the most extreme view as a cult, a kind of a worshiping. I mean, we have Taylor Swift, nowadays that people will flock to her shows and they will hang on every word she says online. And I mean, it's not obviously they're making it much, much, much more extravagant than what we see in real life. But you could imagine somebody getting to that kind of status at some point in their life and celebrity. So, yeah, and again, I'll even say there's like moments of different there's like a character that played by Tony Hale who plays like, I guess, his agent or
his
kind of publicist type of
yes,
thing.
Agent,
publicist. That we see like twice,
Soledad Yusuf.
Right.
Which I thought I loved it. I loved his cameo and loved his whole setup.
Yeah, it was more of the scope of the film that I felt like he was just kind of, it was dropped in just to kind of give exposition as needed. And I felt like, okay, well, there's a character that could have been doing something more, but it was just used twice. And it really was just to set up a scene or set up the next action. And it's like, all right, that feels like that was kind of just a stitched together way of throwing this film together. You've got these great moments, you got these great ideas, but then to put it into a full story that works, yeah.
And
it just didn't match for me.
And it did for me. And I think before you see him for the first time, they're in I guess at the magazine that she works at, the journalists are sitting around, they've heard rumors that Moretti is back. They're like, oh, well, if he's going to do anything, it's always going to come to us through, this Soledad Yusuf character you haven't seen yet. But they're like, oh yeah, he always comes on and just builds up all this promotion. And just like, everybody thinks he's just basically an idiot because all he is a hype man and so self-involved, almost as big an ego as what you're assuming Moretti has. And sure enough, they do get this video, like a YouTube clip that, that everybody goes and watches. And yeah, it's Tony Hale with like long hair. And this is like, kind of wacko, but you're like, yep, that's exactly what we thought we'd get. At the end of the film, when you're talking about he comes back, there's been, it's been 2 years since she has seen Moretti. And then he, asks her, he's like basically doing this old hype to get her to come back. And it works because of why Moretti wants to talk to her. And so, yeah, I can see why I can see why it didn't work for you, but a lot of things that I think didn't work for you worked for me. And I guess, had this, I'll mention it for the final time, won't say it anymore. Had this been a Jordan Peele film, I probably wouldn't be as forgiving or accepting of the messiness and some of the things that you're talking about that kind of held you back from appreciating it. But the fact that I had no knowledge of this writer-director, I'm just going in just based off the trailer. I know who some of the actors involved, but it was a fun enough watch for me that it was worth it. But I can see if I'd had a little bit more of expectations, which we often talk about are the things that can ruin something, then I probably would be more disappointed. I'll say one other.
Well, and I'm not going to say I'm disappointed because I had no expectations for this film going in. I do think this film, the guy, first time director, writer, great. I think the film looks really good. I will give it that much for sure. I think there's actually some shots and scenes that look really amazing. I will call out, there's a scene late in the film. I'm just going to say it's Moretti at a piano by himself.
Yep.
As people are approaching. Yeah, that's a really good scene, really good shot. I'm like, again, there's scenes and moments and shots. I'm like, yeah, I like that scene and I like that shot and I like that sequence. But again, it felt like it was just a combination of different ideas that didn't tell the cohesive story I felt like it could have. So, yeah.
I want to call out, we've mentioned how Moretti is this big pop icon in the film. The music, which was done by Nile Rodgers, and also The Dream, which I was unfamiliar with. The Dream. We'll come back to The Dream here in a second. But I really liked the music in the film, both the soundtrack elements where they would play like this creepy music and then the actual music that Moretti would perform. The single that apparently was like his most popular hit 30 years ago. And they showed kind of like a montage of different people singing it and talking about how great it was. I'm like, yeah, I can see how that was a huge hit. And of course, I think it was an original song that was written for the film.
Right.
So I really liked that. And The Dream, I went and did just a tiny bit of research, found out that this fellow, he wrote Umbrella for Rihanna. He's like a well-established, he does a lot of writing. He's originally from North Carolina, which actually makes sense because at one point somebody name drops the fact that they were a music teacher in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of made me say, I was like, well, that's weird. It's a North Carolina reference. But now like, okay, that figures that The Dream's actually from North Carolina originally. And that would probably be why he would name drop that. But I really I thought the music was really good, which if we're to believe that Moretti was as awesome as he was, kind of important that the music's not just instantly disposable,
right.
Because for us to believe that everybody just swoons over him, it's like, yeah, that's a kind of a crucial element for the music to be.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I thought the music worked. I was actually surprised. I expected it to be once the movie started. I'm like, okay, well, how are they going to show us music that he's performing that's supposed to be so captivating to the world that he's become this celebrity? And they play the music. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I actually worked. I mean, a lot of times you see movies about famous, supposed to be fictional, famous musicians, and the music you hear is like crap. And it's like, why in the world is anybody in the world
right.
like so fascinated by this if the music's so horrible?
Right.
I get it. They wrote it for the film. I mean,
right.
If it was meant to be a worldwide hit, it would have been a worldwide hit. It wouldn't have been written for this film.
Right.
But I actually was surprised at the quality of the music in the film. And it's like, yeah, I actually, yeah, what is it? What's the song? Dior, what's the main song he was doing?
It's like a woman's
name.
Yeah,
right.
And I can't remember it, but yeah, whatever.
It's a good song.
It is a good song.
So, I liked it. Yeah, again, moments worked. Things were Dina Simone. That's the name of the song.
Dina Simone.
Dina
which
Simone
is interesting because Nina Simone.
Simone.
There's probably something to that because I don't remember and actually, some of the words to the song, I can't remember them now, but when you have the people singing them back, they're very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just your typical fluff or what it's like, like if I was actually able to read them, I'd be like, that's really fascinating. But yeah.
Io Erdeberry, I think, Erdeberry, let me make sure I get her last name correct. Io Erdeberry. Is that, do you think I'm on target with that?
And then Erdeberry.
Erdeberry.
Yeah.
I'll go with the Erdeberry instead of Erdeberry. I thought she was fine.
Oh, there
it it's just, I've seen her in several things now at this point. Obviously, The Bear, she's been a lead on that. She's also been she was in the film Bottoms. A couple others I know I've seen her in. I don't think there was a lot of stretching in this role. I felt like it was just kind of, her role was basically, I have to respond to everything with disbelief, shock, or questioning. And that's kind of the way it was. So I didn't really feel like there was a lot stretching the role here. I mean, she was fine in the role. It's just, I didn't think there was really as much to it. And I was a little disappointed by that.
I would agree. Yeah. The John Malkovich has the most to do and is the most, but yeah, I thought she was fine. Could she have had more to do, more agency, more like to set her apart from other things? But yeah, you could basically say you pluck her character out of The Bear and put her in as a music journalist instead of trying to be a chef.
That's what it is.
And it was, but I don't fault her for that. They're just, the writing wasn't there to like differentiate stuff. But I thought she was she was obviously good.
Unfortunately, she had a fairly thankless role in
Sure.
general. I mean, her thing again was to be placed in a fish out of water situation and show her responding and reacting and being questioning of everything she sees. That's a pretty stereotypical role. There wasn't a lot more depth written into her role than that. So unfortunately,
Some people that were fun for me to see. Juliette Lewis, she plays another journalist, and not that she has a lot to do, but it was just fun to see her on screen again. And then I was like, that person looks familiar. She works for Moretti, and I kept thinking, why does she look so familiar? Amber Midthunder. So her from Prey, and she was in this film. So I was like, okay, that's where I've seen her before. And not that she has a lot to do, but she is good. And she has this scene where Ariel wants to go out jogging, and the way that her character is Belle, Amber Midthunder's character is Belle, the way she's her concierge is how they say, basically like, oh, if you need anything, just let her know. But the way she like follows her and tracks her with the look on her face and everything, I thought there again, a kind of odd moment that just really worked for me.
interestingly enough, Amber Midthunder also starring in the other film that opened this weekend that we chose not to go see, which was Novocaine. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she had 2 films opening the same day. We had 3 films basically to choose from for opening night. And yes, this was the one.
And I wasn't sad. I still want to see Black Bag, but
yes.
Yeah. And also, I'm interested if you have this problem. It's just a random thing. He played Stan Sullivan, kind of Ariel's boss, Murray Bartlett. And the whole time I'm watching the film, I'm like, I know you're not Will Forte, but I swear you guys could be brothers, because something about their face and kind of some of their like, not that it's not this film's not a comedy, but just the way he does some things. I'm like, man, I feel like you're like poor man's Will Forte, but not that he's poor, but just like something about it just reminds me. And then come to find out, okay, now I know why he looks so familiar. It's not that he looks like Will Forte, which I still think he does, but he was in the first season of White Lotus, where he had a very prominent role as the hotel manager.
He was a big, and then also he was in a episode of The Last of Us HBO show.
Oh, okay, and I saw that as well. With Nick Offerman, I think. Yeah, so Murray Bartlett, I like him, but for some reason, especially this time, I was like, why do I keep thinking you're Will Forte?
Yeah,
I don't know why.
A little bit of that in there.
So just a random note there. But
well, that's Opus. We had differing experiences with it, but again, I will say I think the film had some interesting moments, interesting concepts and ideas to it, and there were some great scenes that I do think were fun. I just wish it had added up to more, or picked a lane and decided what kind of film it wanted to be by the end of the day, and let us have that film. That was my main issue with it. But it sounds like you had better experience with it, which is good.
Yeah,
it's all good. All good. Every movie is somebody's favorite. I'm not saying it's your favorite movie, Chris.
No, I would not say it's my favorite, but
I'm just saying, yeah, it's good to know people like it. It was a small theater we saw the film in.
Yes,
but full. Small theater, which is odd. So very interesting. It made no money, just so you know. I mean, it actually is considered one of A24's lowest performing like new release films ever. So interesting story there. Unfortunately, it's not destined for greatness in the box office, but most good films are not, so that's okay. All right. So that is Opus. That is available. I'd say it's available now, but probably not by the time you're listening to this episode, whenever it is on theater. So you may just have to wait for this one to get to streaming to check it out, hopefully. But if it is playing in a theater and everything in our conversation sounds like something interesting to you, go check it out. So I will say you're not going to waste your time. It's not a horrible experience watching the film for me. It just didn't work for me. But
and I'm glad that there are films like this are making it to the theater. I mean, I guess in a way, bad for theater owners, bad for Hollywood, because they're struggling to find things right now. Horror seems to be what a lot of, Neon shifted to that. A lot of things make horror because they're things that do make money. So, but for me, I'm glad just to be able to see movies like this instead of just seeing, bunches of sequels or, like big blockbuster films. Like the fact that I was able to see this in the theater as opposed to just streaming somewhere, that makes it fun for me. So.
Great. Well, that is Opus, and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, just as Chris alluded to, sequels. We're going to show sequels trailers.
Yay.
We have 2 trailers for sequels that we're going to be playing. Ones that I wouldn't have expected to see sequels for, but here we are, and we're going to be checking out the trailers for them for the first time. Then also, Chris, we're going to have a recommendation of a film that he thinks we ought to check out late in the show. So stay tuned. You're listening to Foot Candle Films. We'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our review of the film Opus in the first half of the show. Now let's go ahead and check out some trailers. So we like to, from time to time, watch trailers, although we realize trailers can also be very evil and bad because they may set up unfair expectations or maybe give away too much of the film that we don't want to see. But trailers do tend to be kind of our best way to gauge what kind of film we're in store for whenever something's announced. So we are going to watch a couple trailers. Just fair warning, if you're somebody who doesn't like to be spoiled by trailers, you may want to skip ahead a little bit because we get it. I mean, it can happen. Chris, you bemoaned that you didn't want to face a multiplex stacked with nothing but sequels and rehashes of films. You like the idea of original films making it in the movie theater.
I do.
So unfortunately for the 2 trailers I'm showing you, they are both rehashes of old films that are now getting sequels. And could they be cash grabs? I don't know. Could there be some good qualities to them? We will see. I'm going to bring up 2 of them for you. The first one I want us to take a look at, and I'll go in to say fair warning, I've never seen the original of this film. Okay. And this is Freaky Friday. Okay. The new version is called Freakier Friday. Now, Freaky Friday, this is the one with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan back from 2003.
So not the original that Disney made back in like the 60s or whatever.
That's right. That was
50s or 60s.
Yeah, that was old Disney film. This is the latest version that was done back in 2003. Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan.
Gotcha.
They play Tess and Anna, I guess a mother-daughter. Again, I've never seen the original.
Yeah.
Is that the deal?
Yes.
They are mother-daughter.
And they switch places, like their minds or whatever.
I got that concept.
Got you.
That's about all I know about the film, is that they switch places.
Comedy ensues.
Right. I remember we had several versions of movies like this for a while. There was one that was Judge Reinhold in it.
Yes.
And he swapped with like a kid.
Yeah, I think that was basically like the guy version of Freaky Friday.
But then there was also a Dudley Moore, Kirk Cameron version.
Yeah.
Like father, like son.
I'll take your word for it. That sounds like that would be a
This
title.
is all rushing back to me now.
Yeah, they do. And so
this
the
is
original one, which the actress who was in the original Freaky Friday was just in Trap with or no, that was Parent Trap, different film.
Yeah.
Also a Disney classic. So no, but no, so that's not Freaky Friday. But anyways, yeah, lots of Disney stuff on. But the original Freaky Friday I have seen, but I've long forgotten it. I never saw the remake with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. Okay. But it's interesting that they're now doing a sequel and they're bringing those 2 back. So,
and I will tell you, that's the reason I'm a little curious about it, because I will admit, I think I like everything Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of doing right now in her life. I mean, I think I like all the choices she's making and performances and roles, and she seems to be really kind of having a really good time with everything she's doing. So her signing on to do this, I mean, again, is it a money grab? Yeah, I'm sure there's some probably pretty good pay involved with it.
Is Disney doing it? I wonder if it is.
Yeah. It's definitely a Disney film.
Okay.
Yeah. Where am I going to find the trailer for this? I thought I had it queued up, Chris, but
it's interesting, and I wonder, is it going to come to theaters, or is it just a Disney Plus streaming release? You have.
Let me give you the details, because I can tell you this.
Okay.
Freaky Friday, the original, back in 2003.
Okay. The original remake.
The original of this
Yes.
franchise, this universe, this Freaky Friday universe.
Yes.
It looks like the film is going to be, doesn't actually, I don't have a release date. I don't have whether it's going to be theaters or Disney Plus.
Which makes me think it's probably going to be a Disney Plus release, which does seem to be a little bit more of a modest sequel thing. You're like, yeah, we think there's people will still like it. Fans of the original, the original in this universe will like it, but we're not going to, we're not aiming for the stars here. We're going to just put on streaming to have content that people may, so.
I am finding a August 8th expected release date in theaters.
Oh, okay.
So they are going theaters on this one.
All right.
And from what it sounds like, I've lost the trailer, and hold on. I'm frantically texting our intern to tell him that he needs to come in here and fix the trailer for us. I need the Freakier Friday trailer, please.
And I'm curious. Lindsay Lohan, has been gone from the spotlight for a while, so I'm interested to see her return to the big screen. So actually, the last thing that I may remember her actually doing may be the Freaky Friday remake. So yeah.
Well, we reviewed her in a film called The Canyons by Paul Schrader.
Right.
Or written by Paul Schrader, I believe, or I can't remember. He had some role in it. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it was not a good movie.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I remember her being in.
Okay.
She's done some Netflix stuff lately.
Okay.
I think even like a Christmas movie, some,
Got you.
some like kind of simple fare films that she's made for Netflix recently. But I think this may be her first like back in a theater kind of big film. Anyway,
Okay.
Here it is.
The trailer.
We have the trailer. Thank you, Mr. Intern, for coming in and solving my technical problem. And let's go ahead and check out the trailer for Freakier Friday, coming out August 8th.
Oh, that's interesting. Your lifelines. It's like they've intersected before. You've walked in each other's path. How strange.
Really?
You learned a lesson. A lesson that may serve you again. Okay, that's enough.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Bye.
Did you feel that?
I think it's just all in our heads.
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, it seems like they're not trying to make this serious. Very aware that this is a sequel, and the movie seems to be very self-aware, and at least from the trailer, which we talked about the ills of trailers before, they're just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if Cyndi Lauper has taught us anything, it's that girls just want to have fun. Sometimes they look like they're having fun. If you're a fan of the original and you just want to turn your brain off, have fun, have some silly situations or whatever, hey, have at it. So, is this one of my most anticipated films for 2025? Oh, no. I didn't even know it existed until you told me they were doing it.
Right.
But you know what? I think it looks like it's going to be fun for those that are going to. So I have no disparaging remarks for it. So.
And I'm thankful for a trailer that doesn't want to spoil everything in the film. But I
could really, I guess. But yeah.
But I am a bit confused. So there's 4 people that switch bodies. It looks like
they have upped the ante. Hence the freakier.
And when they say grandmother, they're referring to the Jamie Lee Curtis character. So the 4 of them have swapped within themselves.
Well, there are at least 3. I think it may be mother, daughter, which was last time, and then grandmother. So it is.
But there's 4 girls.
That may just be a friend. I don't know. Maybe it's both of her daughter. I don't know. So it's grandmother is obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. Daughter is Lindsay Lohan. And then now she's married and she has children as well. So I think it's just 3 people, but maybe it is 4. I'm not really sure. So have to watch the film to find out.
I was going to say that the teaser trailer has led me has teased me. I am now kind of wanting to find out the mechanics of how this all works. No, it does. It looks like it's fine. It looks like a fun movie. So we'll see how it turns out. Again, I have never seen the original. Can't speak to it. But we'll see how Freakier Friday is when it comes out around August 8th in theaters, it looks like. Fair enough. All right. Continuing on the sequel remake train. This one, I do have a little bit more knowledge of because I've seen the original
Has the intern queued up the trailer?
Yes, I've got it correctly. This one I've seen many, many times, the original. Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap is one of the first mockumentaries that really kind of hit it big. It was a big deal at the time when it came out because it has become more of a cult classic over the time as well.
Sure.
Rob Reiner is the director and also featured himself in the film as the narrator or as the documentarian making the film. It is a mockumentary, meaning obviously it's all acted and it's not real, but it's shot like a documentary. It's really, if we didn't have Spinal Tap, I don't think we ever would have had The Office and all these other shows. I mean, it really kind of set the standard of the whole making a film within a film and people pretending like they're being in a documentary. So this is back in 1984. It was the original. It was a music mockumentary. It did also star Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, and Harry Shearer, kind of a group that had worked together both in Saturday Night Live and many, many other projects since then.
And then Christopher Guest went on to do Waiting for Guffman.
Yeah, kind of a similar in that same mockumentary style. He continued that trend of making those films. So it is one of my favorite movies. I love this as Spinal Tap. I think it's genius. I think it's great. It is basically the story of a fictional heavy metal band, touted as one of England's loudest bands ever, that's trying to reclaim some of their glory. In the original film, that was the whole deal, as they were trying to just kind of hang on to this fame that they had. And anyway, it was a lot of fun. So now there's always been rumors about them making a sequel to this.
Well, and also something about, I guess, the distribution, or somehow there was like this big to do, which I guess is fitting for Spinal Tap, them somehow being cheated out of money or something. But there was like a money issue involved where some of the actors, maybe it was Harry Shearer, somehow there was some deal where the movie actually ended up being kind of popular, but they never saw like a dime. Well, I don't know if it's true. They never saw a dime, but they didn't see, I don't know. There was so maybe that could have contributed to the fact that it's been so long.
Well, Bleecker Street is the studio that now has the U.S. rights to a follow-up comedy for Spinal Tap. It is going to be called Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues.
Which is, there again,
funny.
The title kind of says, we know what we're doing here. So,
And they've also landed the rights for the original This is Spinal Tap, which has been newly restored and will be released in theaters over this summer. That's good.
Interesting.
Yeah, and This is Spinal Tap will finally land on streaming platforms later this summer too, which has not been on there.
Okay.
Spinal Tap 2 is going to be directed by Rob Reiner again.
Okay.
It also has
Christopher Guest is not going to. Okay.
No, but Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, all back in it.
Okay.
Supposedly in the sequel, the fictional heavy metal band reunites after a 15-year hiatus for one final concert. Reiner returns as Marty DeBurgi, the documentarian who's on tour. And supposedly there are going to be some featured cameos from music legends like Elton John, Paul McCartney, Garth Brooks, and Trisha Yearwood.
Okay.
All making cameos in the film.
Are they all going to be cameos as a drummer? Because that would be amazing.
Yeah, the Spinal Tap in the film has a bad history with drummers. Drummers don't seem to work out for them for very long. So, look, this is just a teaser trailer. It's like really 30-some seconds long, but let's check it out and see the teaser for Spinal Tap 2. All right. So, yeah, that was it. Basically saying, yes, it's coming in September.
But for a film like, okay, talked about how, sequels, but unfortunately, I like comic books. I was a fan of comic book movies.
There's nothing unfortunate about that, Chris.
I'm kind of burned out now. So when I mention sequels, that is immediately what my mind goes to. It's just like the inundation of all the Marvel movies and the DC movies, but more so the Marvel movies. So that set aside, I didn't need a Top Gun Maverick, but it wasn't actually bad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need a Twisters, but it wasn't actually bad.
Fun. It was fun.
Here with this film, 40 years since the original. I really like the original. If you're going to show me a teaser or a trailer, I would rather it be exactly that. Don't show me any of the gags because I want to laugh at them originally when I see it.
I know.
It was just very minimalist. The whole
good.
joke.
The problem is, there's going to be a regular full trailer coming later this year.
I will probably try to avoid it.
I'll
probably end up seeing it in a theater anyway. But,
look, I'll say this. Ted and Bill and Ted, we had the third movie that was kind of that long gestation film that we saw a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Face the Music. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Mm-hmm. Liked it. Thought it was fun. Okay. It was a good time. Is it the original? No, it wasn't the original, but it was still good.
Well, another one that had long gestation. If you're going to make the long gestation, it's like, okay, if you wanted to cash in, you would have cashed in 3 or 4 years. So Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Did I like it as much as the original? No, but did I appreciate a lot of stuff in it?
Sure.
Yes.
I had a good time with it.
I definitely, as you mentioned in the review of that film, Tim Burton made the movie that he wanted to make. Yeah. It seemed like, so, if they've waited 40 years to do a sequel to This Is Spinal Tap, then sure.
I mean, really, yes, 41 years.
Yeah.
This is the trailer, also the teaser at the end said celebrating their 41st anniversary, which is also kind of funny. Just, re-releasing the movie this summer and then having the new one come out in September. Yeah, I'm curious. I just hope it's fun.
Yeah.
I just hope it's a good time. And it doesn't have to match the original. It doesn't have to beat the original. Just be a good time.
I think I don't want to see, even though I've seen I've seen the original many, many times. I will probably avoid seeing the original because I don't need to see it again. And if anything, I'm afraid
you don't want to set up those standards for it.
Because that would overhype me for
the
right. sequel.
It could. So, it very well could. No, it's probably some logic to it. I mean, I remember enough of the movie that I don't need to refresh my memory with it or anything. So, look, I'm expecting a sequel. There's going to be a lot of callbacks.
Oh, sure.
A lot of hitting the same notes that the first movie did, and a lot of the same kind of follow up on the same jokes. I mean, even the Stonehenge was the symbol for the Roman numeral 2 in the end of the teaser. I'm like, oh yeah, this is all this is going to be, and I'm totally down with it. That's fine. Just have fun with it.
Sure.
I honestly think Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer are just funny and good naturally. So put them in some funny wigs, get them up on stage. Let's see what happens.
And I'm not sure, because I don't have it pulled up. Intern didn't tell me the runtime on the original film. But hopefully they won't try to overstay their welcome with the sequel and do like a 2-hour thing. No, make it like 88 minutes or something.
The original This Is Spinal Tap was 82 minutes.
Okay, so they probably can't go that short. But if they do, congratulations. Because I think make some jokes, have some, and then get out. Don't overstay your welcome.
Right.
So I think that would be smart. But we'll see.
No, I think... we'll see how it turns out. So we got Freakier Friday in August, and then we've got the Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues in September. So that is kind of what we've got slated. I know there's some other sequels coming out. I can't recall offhand. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I know there's others.
Here's my hope for the film. Mm-hmm. Regardless of if I think it's, do I laugh more than once? Hopefully. But hopefully one of the times I will have laughed will be a new song for the film that is as funny as like Sex Farm or something like that, because I want it to get nominated for Best Original Song and I want them to perform it at the Oscars. So that's my give me one song that is funny that they can perform at the Oscars. That's my hope for the film.
Okay. I'm trying to think of any. Yeah, it would be really funny if there was.
We'll see.
I'd love it if actually they, as part of the mockumentary, try to write or perform some song that's like socially conscious, like so like big, try to make their big play for, and that becomes something that's just ridiculous and gets Oscar nominated. That would be awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is what we've got in the news section. So, Chris, here we end up the show. We like to toss it over to you on most occasions to see if you have a recommendation for us. I'm going to ask you the question now. Do you have a recommendation for us of a film you'd like to share?
I do.
Okay. Well, then, Chris, please take it away. The floor is all yours. What recommendation do you have for us?
So first, I'm going to this is not what I usually do, but because I think it's fun to do it this way this time. Alan, have you ever heard of a film called The Music Never Stopped?
I've heard of it.
Oh, you have? Okay. Because I don't think I had.
No. I
Can you tell me anybody that it stars?
The Music Never Stopped. No, I cannot.
Okay. So I had never heard of this film. It came out in 2011. The director, I'm familiar with. I think he's only made less than 3 or 4 films. Jim Kohlberg. So that still is probably not. But the lead actor in it is J.K. Simmons. And that caught my attention.
Oh, yes.
And Julia Ormond is also in it.
Yeah.
I'm remembering
this film now.
It's a father-son type drama.
Yeah.
I'll read you the quick little plot description here. Henry, and that's played by J.K. Simmons, struggles to bond with his estranged son, Gabriel, who suffers from a brain tumor that prevents him from forming new memories. With Gabriel unable to shed the beliefs and interests that cause their physical and emotional distance, Henry must learn to embrace his son's choices and try to connect to him or with him through music. Now, the guy who plays the son is Lou Taylor Pucci, who I originally saw. I thought he looked kind of familiar, but couldn't really place him. He was in Thumbsucker, a comedy drama from a long time ago with Keanu Reeves playing a dentist. He knows this kind of odd Sundance film. And I don't really think I'd seen him since. And he's in this, and he is great as the son. Now, I will say, would be like a great, I didn't save it for June for Father's Day, but this would be like a great kind of Father's Day, father-son bonding film because, and also kind of ties into Opus in a totally different direction because this is a drama. But it really relies heavily on the music of the Beatles and the Grateful Dead. And I'm a big fan of both of those groups. And because his son, because of when this takes place, his son is becoming a teenager and everything during the 60s, 70s. And then they kind of have a rift because all he wants to do is play music. Bob Dylan is also kind of referenced in the film. So if you like that music, then you're going to kind of relate to this film because, the father has to reach out to the son. And, any scene where they have a bonding moment over them playing a song and them listening to it and how the son comes alive because of the song. It got me.
See,
every single
the
time.
Movie, Chris, is getting me emotional. So, all right.
It just, the first time I was like, okay, you got me. But now that I know what's going to happen, whatever. Nope. Continued to get me every single time. It's interesting too, because the writer, it's based on, I think it's a book, but Oliver Sacks, who also did Awakenings, based on a book that was Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. And they had that whole thing where a guy was pulled out and he kind of, so this is based on a similar type, based on a true story of a father that was able to reach his son through music. And this is kind of, it may sound familiar because I think, this happened in the 80s and there were probably news articles and stuff like that. So this is kind of based off all that stuff. Okay. But, hey, it's a feel-good thing. I like the music. So The Music Never Stopped. Came out in 2011. I streamed it for free on Hoopla. So that's that service that you use your library card, you can stream movies. So, and it's also rentable in places. But it was a J.K. Simmons performance I was completely unfamiliar with. So.
I remember when the film came out. I remember not really getting a ton of attention, unfortunately. But, glad to hear it's a good film. So
it is a good film. And I think it would be hard, the jaded movie critics that we sometimes are, if it was a new film and it came out in the theater and there was a lot of hoopla, people would come away saying it's the equivalent of a Hallmark movie, where you kind of know where it's going, that things are going to be resolved. But you know what? it was a Hallmark movie that worked for me, and those can work for film, and it's just a feel good film. So,
awesome. Okay.
Music never stopped.
The music never stopped. So I take it is it streaming somewhere or is it
it was streaming on Hoopla.
Oh, that's right. You said Hoopla, the library service, but as far
services.
as probably some other services you can get as well.
I will say too, there are some plot points where they could take an easier way out or more like, predictable, sweet way out. And there are two different times where they don't. And I was like, well played. Music never stopped. Well played. So,
that is good to hear. So I like it when a film takes some unorthodox pathways.
Sure.
So that's good. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for the recommendation, Chris. It will be added to the watch list here, the ever-growing watch list.
Sure.
And I think that wraps us up for today. So we had our review of Opus, which we were a little split on. And neither one dramatically in either direction, but Chris was generally positive on the film. I was generally down on the film, but we had some commonalities of things we did find of interest from it. And then we had our trailers for Freaky or Friday and the trailer for Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, coming out later this year. And then our recommendation from Chris that we just heard. So, Chris, any thoughts or feedback or any way people want to get a hold of us? What should they do?
You should send an email to info@footcandle.org. We are also on the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Foot Candle Film or Foot Candle Film Society is how you can find us with that. Al and I are also on Letterboxd, where we try to track what we're seeing and leave quick takes. Do us a favor. If you enjoy the show, consider giving us a star rating, write a review, share with friends on whatever service you receive your favorite podcast on, because it'll help us reach new listeners, and we'd appreciate that. Alan mentioned it, that we do hold an annual Foot Candle Film Festival, and this year's will be September 19th through the 28th. So we'd love it if you could come join us in Western North Carolina in Hickory.
Yep. We'll be giving a lot more information about that as we get into the summer months, but just be aware and go ahead and get the dates on your calendar so you can come join us for the festival later this year. And then we will be back hopefully next week with another episode if all goes well and plans stay as they are. I don't know what we'll be reviewing. I don't know what we'll be discussing. That will be a nice surprise. We'll just wait and see what happens next week. So until then, thanks for listening to Foot Candle Films, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Foot Candle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.